Christian here with I'm Chasing Wild, and today we are exploring the Albatrosse amphibious Cold War era plane crash. There's no maintained trail to get here. We're hiking to a remote mountain range in Death Valley National Park. All right, 4 a.m. start. Got a big old hill ahead of us. Let's get going. Been hiking for about an hour. I got to kind of the top of the ridge, the hardest part's over. And as I was walking, I've been just bushwhacking for an hour because there's no real trail to this plane wreck. But as I was walking, I did see this U.S. Department of the Interior 1977 Park Service land marker out here, but the moon is so bright, you can't really pick it up on camera. I've been walking the last hour with no headlamp. From here on out, we're just gonna have to do a couple, well, I think there's 4 different little knolls that we have to go up and over in order to get to the plane wreck. And it's 5:30, so we should have about another hour until that sun comes up. I think it's gonna be really beautiful. So in 1952, there was an Albatrosse plane. I'll give you a little bit more details on that plane in a little bit. Apparently this plane was a part of some secretive missions tied to the CIA. There was 6 passengers aboard this plane, and the left engine failed as they were at, I believe, 11,000 feet flying over what is now Death Valley. Luckily, all 6 on board jumped out of the plane, survived. 2 were injured upon landing. The other 4 went and looked for safety or rescue. Walking along a ridge, you can see that the sun's starting to come up back here, but come across some of these T-posts, and I read that this was at one time the old border of Death Valley, and it has since been extended. So they must have used these T-posts as markers, or I highly doubt they had a fence. Oh, look at this. There's actually another one of these markers right here. So yeah, that must have been, they must have marked the old boundary with these markers, and probably before that, they used these T-posts. Big mountains to climb. I think at max we're gonna get up to 7,000 and some change in elevation, and right now I want to say we're at 6, so a little bit of climbing to do. Let's keep going. There is no designated trail to reach this plane. It is all bushwhack with a mix of chunky rock, scree fields, and then a bunch of shrubland, which is kind of what you can see back here. If you're curious about hiking to this plane wreck yourself, I'll drop some of the coordinates in the comments. But just know that this plane wreck is in Death Valley National Park now, and it is a federal crime to take anything from the plane. Back in the day, it wasn't. And you can actually find some parts of the plane for sale online. Getting warm. Behind me lies our next challenge, climb, which is Town Benchmark. It's roughly 7,300 feet. Grab a couple snacks for the climb. As I'm hiking to this plane, I catch myself thinking, why couldn't that plane have wrecked on one of these gentle slopes? Would make getting there and viewing it so much easier. But that's exactly the reason why this plane is still here. The area that it's located makes it nearly impossible to get the plane out of here. which is why it's so intact. Got my first view of the plane wreck. It looks like something out of a sci-fi. Sun's rising, illuminating the hills above us. We started down there, up all these little drainages, gullies. Now we just need to make it up and down. That is pretty awesome. And look at this view. If you guys do this hike, I highly recommend starting early in the morning. Oh, there's the sun. Good morning, sun. There is the faintest hint of a trail going up to Town Peak. Welcome to Death Valley. We have made it to Town Peak, and boy is it beautiful up here. We have a view of Sequoia National Park, Mount Whitney, which is the tallest 14er in the lower 48. Obviously we have Death Valley, and over here we have the Inyo Mountains, and then back behind us, Death Valley just continues into the horizon. Right here at the top of the peak, we also have another survey stamp. I guess that's what you call it. U.S. Geological Survey. I just got a really strong whiff of cat piss. And there are mountain lions here and bobcats. Makes me wonder if I'm close to one of their dens. Very little vegetation up here, but there are some gnarled looking cedar trees shaped by the wind and the harsh environment they live in. Pretty incredible something can survive up here. I know I'm close, and I see a ammo box, which must be some kind of sign-in or something. Let's go check that out. Looks like a empty stash of water. Oh, there's water in that one, just in case. What else is in here? Oh, a little piece of the plane. Some kind of tubing. And then, what is this? Transformation Warfare Training Group, San Diego. Cool. Imagine this is some sort of logbook. This goes all the way back to 2005. Final ascent should be just over this hill. My first sight of it. This is some very steep terrain. This thing ended up in a very precarious spot, just right on the side of this sheer cliff. Probably can't see it, but there's debris from the plane clear down in that valley. Not even sure where to begin. You can see this is where it probably scraped into the side of the mountain, just ripped these panels apart. But to be honest, it's pretty intact. These little flaperons help steer. This is insane. There's just wiring and tubing, panels, hardware littered everywhere. So this plane is an SA-16-A Albatross, and it's a amphibious aircraft. It was designed to be able to land in rough swells, oceans, rivers. The idea of this aircraft was to be able to get in, rescue people, and it was specifically designed during the Cold War era. And the Air Force used this heavily for downed pilot rescue, Cold War extraction missions, recon, and covert insertion. And they even did some sea survival ops using this aircraft. Someone hung up an American flag. You can see this rear flap still has a little movement to it. See, this hole here is probably where people on board had evacuated. There were 6 of them, and they all jumped out of the plane before it crashed and parachuted to safety. That is a massive plane, though. You can see there's just debris littered throughout this canyon. You can even see some shining clear down there in the valley. 1001 is the tail number. There's also some markings up here on this wing. Let's try to go around and get a better look. This plane had twin radial engines. It was a Pratt & Whitney R-1820. And you can actually see one right here. The left engine had a failure, and the pilot deemed it necessary to evacuate the aircraft because they knew that they were going to go down. Everything is just torn to pieces. Absolute mangled mess. See a bunch of old wiring. There's actually a piece of paper right there. Well, it's not very sturdy. This is pretty cool. I just found a piece of paper that was still in the plane. And on the back side you can see the distance required for takeoff increases with the altitude. Increases with the altitude of the field. That's pretty cool. On the other side it says approximately 400 miles, reports from locations within the flight. The broadcast says local weather reports. You can even see how this was burnt in the wreck. That's pretty cool right there. No top secret information, which is what I was hoping for. You can just see how the metal was so hot on impact, and probably from the fuel of the aircraft that it just melted metal. Cut here for emergency rescue. Feels a little bit dicey being under this plane with how sheer of a cliff it is on. It's a really good view of the plane. There's a chair still intact. Looks like a couple doors. There's a little chain of some sort. Having a little lunch. Just imagine, it's December, it's nighttime, and you're on a secret training mission on the Albatrose, flying from Mountain Home Air Force Base down to San Diego. You're flying at 11,000 feet, and there's a big explosion. Left engine fails. You quickly start descending, and your captain, your pilot, deems it necessary to abort. So you pop open the emergency exit, strap on your parachute, and jump into the night. And the plane slowly soared down until it crashed into the ground. That plane probably came right over down peak and quickly descended. Just barely missed this rocky outcrop and slammed into the side of this mountain. The whole right wing is destroyed, but the left wing and this whole tail section here is pretty intact. So the hike to get here ended up being 4.48 miles and a little over 2,500 feet in elevation. There's a deer track. They may look inhospitable, but there's certain species that call these mountains home. Mule deer. There's also some desert bighorn sheep, mountain lions as well. Pretty incredible that they can live out here. Oh, I had missed this earlier. So this was kind of hidden. Let's see what's in this one. Logbook and a cold Modelo. It's funny. Let's enter this log as well. This one is very difficult to see. Town Peak. Someone's up here November 27th and they said there's a bunch of snow. Well, there's my truck, way down at the bottom of the canyon. This hike is almost completed. I had a fun one. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you like this video, please go subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys on the next adventure.